So now that we have our content on our left side, let's go ahead and we'll add in something for our sidebar as well. So if we go back to our source code, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the second paragraph here, and we can go in and we can populate that into our sidebar as well. And what we can do here too is we can go ahead and we can add in our content div. So if we make a bit of space for ourselves and we paste that in here, and we tab it in just so that it looks tidy. So the next thing we want to do is we want to create a rule for the paragraph tag that's contained within our sidebar. So what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and we'll create it under our sidebar heading 2 rule. Okay, so this is our rule. So the sidebar P is what we're targeting. So any paragraph contained within the sidebar, we're going to again text align justify, and I forgot to put in our color attribute. So that gives our color is consistent with the paragraphs throughout the rest of the document. We're giving it a line height of 25 pixels. We've given it a border of 1 pixel solid BBB, which is again a grey, so it stays consistent with our theme. We've given it a border radius of 5 pixels, and we've given it a padding of 3%. And we can go ahead and we can add in our conditional rules for our alternative browsers as well. So that should now work in all of our browsers. So if we save that, save all, and we put the 2 to the server again, and we go back and we refresh that page, we have a nice paragraph here contained inside in a little border. But as you can see, because we've set our target div with a height of 400 pixels, the content is overflowing it. So if we go back in here and we remove the height property from the sidebar, just delete that, save it again, and we put that back up to the server, and if we refresh it, we should have a div that's set height by the property or the element contained within it. So what we want to do now is I want to add in some images. So in order to do that, I've actually gone ahead and I've placed 2 images that I want to use in our root folder. Image 1 and image 2. So in order to create those, I think anybody who's followed along in our previous tutorial knows how to create an image. So what we do is we're going to place it inside our first paragraph tag here. So that's our image placed in, and that's how we're going to get it to display within the paragraph. Now what I've done here is we've given an image tag with the source of and the link to the image, which is actually _images / image1.jpg, and again I've given it an alt tag which should be descriptive of what the picture is, and really you should get into the habit of doing this. It's very, very important for screen readers, for people who are visually impaired. Now what we want to do as well is we want to give this a class. So I want to give it a class of article image. So we're giving it a class of article image, and the reason is because I want the images with a class of article image to float to the right, but I also want them to have a couple of other properties as well. So if we save that and we go to our CSS document and we'll create a rule for it. So the rule I've created here to target our article image, again it's a class, so it's preceded by a period, and I've given it a width of 50%. Now if you look at our image and you look at the parameters of our image, it's 600 pixels wide, and there's a reason for that, because our minimum width is going to be, when we set it up for our handheld device view, is going to be 600 pixels. So I want this to be a kind of a larger image that can be scaled down rather than a small image that has to stretch up, because it looks better that way. So if we give it a width of 50%, so that means that it's going to be 50% of the div that it's contained in, or the paragraph that it's contained in, which means it's going to be responsive. I want it to float to the right hand side, and I want the image to have padding of 0.8% all round. I want it to have a border as well of 1 pixel solid BBB, which is a grey, again staying consistent with our theme. It's going to have a margin left of 2%, which means it's going to push any text away from it by 2% on the left hand side. It's going to have a margin top of 0.8% to bring it in line with the padding of the actual paragraph, so that it looks like it's actually in line. And it's going to have a margin bottom of 1%, which means that it's going to create a little bit of space directly underneath the image. So if we save that, we save all our documents and we'll put them all to the browser or to the server, and we refresh our folder structure here. So what we want to do is we want to put our style, our index, and we might as well put both images up, even though we only have one put in for the time being. So if we go back to our document here and refresh, you can see our image is put in, and you can see it's kind of lined up with the top of the paragraph. So that's why we gave it the 0.8%, and it has 0.8% padding as well, but that's why we pushed the margin top, just to push it down a wee bit. You can see the 2% margin on the left, and you can't really notice the margin underneath because the paragraph isn't really high enough. But if that text did actually come down, what would happen is it would wrap underneath it, and it would leave a certain amount of space underneath. So we can go ahead now and we can continue on and put some images in our sidebar.